You're listening to Brandon Sports Talk, interviewing professional athletes and Paralympians and Olympians. And now for your professional athlete interview and your host, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Canada Paralympian wheelchair basketball player, Arinn Young. How are you doing today?
I am good. It's bright and early where I'm from in Alberta, Canada. So I'm starting my day off strong.
That's good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to play professional wheelchair basketball?
When I first started playing wheelchair basketball, the program that I came from, there was a lot of really great Canadian Paralympians, and they kind of all did the same course. They played in Canada, and then once they, got really good, they played college in the States. And after that, then they went overseas to Europe. And that's where the pro basketball is. So when I was introduced to wheelchair basketball, I was introduced to all these opportunities. And so once I heard I could kind of go down that same route, that's kind of where I set my mind to. And I did the exact same thing. I played in Canada. Once I got a little bit better, I went to the University of Alabama. And then from there, I graduated and I am playing in Germany for pro basketball.
Of course, what was that like in getting started at the age of 11 in wheelchair basketball?
It was really eye-opening. So where I am from in Alberta, Canada, I'm up north and there's not a lot of people that have disabilities where I'm from. So when I got hurt, a family friend of ours, his daughter had spinal bifida. He brought me into wheelchair basketball, and I literally opened the gym doors and saw like 20 people in wheelchairs, and I was like overwhelmed because I've never seen that many people with disability in my life. And yeah, they just like strapped me in a chair and gave me a basketball, and they just told me to go. They didn't teach me how to like push the chair. They didn't teach me how to like dribble in the chair. And I picked it up really, really fast and like fell in love with it ever since. It's like just I was really nervous to interact with people with disabilities at first because I didn't want to say the wrong things. And that is like something you just like learn growing up. And all my friends now are in the wheelchair basketball community, and I just I'm really appreciative of kind of where my life has turned out.
Of course, what was that transition like for you from going from playing basketball to then getting into wheelchair basketball?
It was incredibly tough when I got injured because as a kid I had my sights on, going to play stand-up basketball in college, and just being a really good basketball athlete. And when I got hurt and, my doctor's telling me that maybe I should stick to playing piano, that was a really big wake up call because it was just like, I'm 11, 12 years old and my dreams are kind of already getting crushed. So I was really, really crushed when I first, heard that I would not be usually playing able-bodied sports anymore. And yeah, like I said, when I started wheelchair basketball, I instantly fell in love with it, and it's like changed my perspective on life. And like not everything's going to be down in the dumps all the time. And yeah, so it's really changed my life in a very positive way, and I'm really glad it did because I have no idea what my life would have looked like just getting hurt and giving up.
How was that experience like getting to go to Alabama Crimson Tide and getting to play wheelchair basketball and getting to live out that dream that you had to play collegiate basketball?
Oh my goodness, those 5 years at Alabama was a ride. It was so much fun. Like I said, I'm like from pretty far up north in Canada, and then going all the way to the south in America was a huge wake up call. Just, obviously the very easy stuff, like the weather is incredibly hot there, but just like living experiences, how, the whole sorority fraternities in the States, like it's all so different. And so it was a really eye-opening experience when I first got there, and I instantly fell in love with the South and our university and the team I was on. And yeah, those 5 years were an absolute ride. And I think that being there has definitely like really skyrocketed my career because I was training every day. I was in a very high performance situation. You go there and you're expected to win national championships. So like you're there to create a like legend, you know what I mean? So it was so cool. And I'm just so lucky I graduated, and I graduated with an exercise sports science degree. So, I'm always going to kind of be in sports.
Of course, what was that experience like getting to put on that Crimson Tide basketball jersey for the wheelchair basketball?
It was it was kind of surreal. Like, you're younger then and you don't really think about it when you're putting on that jersey because you're just like, oh, I'm going to go play basketball and, light it up. But now looking back on it, it was so surreal, and I'm so lucky to have gone there and gotten a full ride and got to kind of live out my true college experience. And yeah, I can't even really put it into words, being able to represent such a high quality university when it came to sports. And it was just so cool. It was so much fun.
What was that experience like getting to be a part of the national championship teams there?
Ooh, it's a lot of hard work. That you're expected to have really good grades, you're expected to perform on and off the court, whether it's in school or strength and conditioning. You're always expected to perform and bring your best self. So that's definitely like amplified me being a bit of a perfectionist, just because they expect pretty much perfect the whole time you're there. um but yeah, like it's super cool. And the national championship tournament's really, really huge for us because that's like the lead up to everything we were doing the whole year. And when you win, it's almost like you've won a world championships or a Paralympic medal, because it's like that's the highlight, that is the tip of your career there. And yeah, and obviously you get those like massive rings that you won, a national title. And there's so much like the Alabama alumni, like you have dinners and you get to meet a bunch of people after and show off your ring. Like it's so fancy and like just something you would never truly experience at like college or university in Canada.
While playing with Alabama, what was that like balancing being a part of the Team Canada team?
Uh, our national team was really forgiving. Like they knew we were there, to get our education. We were playing basketball at a high level, so they knew we were in like a really good training environment. But thank goodness, Alabama and Team Canada had a really good relationship. So they talked a lot about okay, Arinn needs to come to these camps and they're mandatory. And Alabama was like, yeah, by all means, it's okay. But there's also times where, Alabama would be like, actually, she can't go because national championships is a month away and we need her for training and games. So they actually had a really, really good relationship, and it made it stress-free for me because they were so open and honest to each other. So, like I said, I'm really, really happy that I was in the best situation when it came to both programs, and they really respected each other. And so it was pretty smooth sailing for me for the most part.
Of course, while in college, what was that experience like getting to play with those future Paralympians that would represent Team USA or Canada?
It was very interesting at first because I'm a very, very proud Canadian, and they're very, very patriotic as well. So there was a few times we would like clash on court, just Canada versus USA, training environment. But other than that, you're kind of reminded that you're here to make each other better. And it's so cool to see on an international level how many people, how many teammates I've had, and how many people I've played against are now at that international level. So you're kind of like, oh, like a little bit of old rivalries, but also just like old friendships kind of rekindle. And so it's definitely competitive, but still like a very like fun and loving environment.
How was that feeling like for you to make the Canada wheelchair basketball national team?
Ooh, it's so hard to also explain this because it was in 2014 when I made the team. I was really young still, and I almost didn't believe them when they first like said I made it. I like almost was like, am I dreaming? Like, did you actually just say I'm on the team? And I was so pumped. I was the youngest on the team and definitely, kept a little bit of everyone young at the time. And I was screaming, I was hooting and hollering, I'm calling my parents and crying, and like my mom's crying because I made the team. So it was just like I was so lucky to be a part of that team at the time because they were so pumped for just myself making the team, but like the future of the program because I was again the youngest one there. And yeah, it was a very loving and great experience. Like it was so cool. And to this day, you can't fully describe that feeling of when you first are told, like, you've made Team Canada, you're part of the top 12 in the world in Canada. And so that's like something you can't really put into words, but I was having like an out of body experience.
Of course, what was that like getting to compete in the 2012 and 2013 CWBL championship?
Ooh, 2012, I was still really new to the sport. I literally only think I was in it for like four to 6 months. So it was just really eye-opening to me to see that level and see how crazy good some athletes were compared to me who could like, barely hit a 12-foot shot at the time. Um, in 2013, though, that's kind of when I really found my groove and knew I wanted to play at a high level. And so 2013 was like, I think I didn't realize it at the time was pretty huge for me, but I definitely think the people at those tournaments were like, who is this girl? You know what I mean? And at the time I was just like, I'm here to play basketball and like beat everyone up. Like, and yeah, so 2013 was definitely eye-opening because then I also made the all-star team, and I had like I was the highest leading scorer on our team, and I was just the main, player at the time in 2013. And so that was really eye-opening that even in that short like year from 2012 to 2013, how much I've improved and how much I like started to dedicate to the sport. So yeah, I was like, the young kid on the block, like, who is she?
Of course, how was that experience like getting to compete in your first world championship?
Well, it's still my one of my favorite years with the national team, and I've literally almost been on the national team for 10 years. I was just a kid, and I was so lucky with the veterans I had on the team. They all took me under their wing. And so to me, I was just a sponge. I was absorbing everything prior to Worlds, in Worlds, everything. I was just a sponge. I was taking advice from anyone and everything. And so I think just being at that World Championships, and I think I didn't play a ton because I was like 17 years old. And it was eye-opening to me to see the level like I can still go up in, and that like I'm still down here and I want to be up here. And so yeah, I was just very fortunate to have a great team and teammates at the time that took me under their wing, because it's made me the player I am today. So, and like, how awesome is it to think that my first international major tournament, I won gold? You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty, like, that's like icing on the cake.
Of course, what was that like getting to compete in your first Paralympian games to then go to the Paralympics?
Toronto 2015 Parapan Games was really, really cool. That was like my first introduction to, because it's essentially like a little mini Paralympics, right? Because every sport is there. And so that was kind of like my first time like getting to see and experience all the other sports and all the other athletes and countries. So again, I was still fairly new at the time. So I was again like a sponge, kind of just enjoying the ride while I could. And I got a little bit more minutes in 2015. So I took obviously like my training and stuff, I tried to like amplify it a bit more to be an effective player in 2015. And then obviously when we qualified for the Rio Paralympics, that was huge because, you know, Canada, you're either on our bandwagon or you're not. And so to prove a lot of people wrong is like something Canada seem to be known for. And yeah, so when we qualified, I definitely think we proved a lot of people wrong, and we were like, we're in this to like win it. And so yeah, it was an experience.
How was that feeling like the first time you got announced to make your Paralympic team to go to Rio in 2016?
I put a lot of work in from pretty much 2014 to 2016, and I definitely think I was a lot stronger in my game and in my confidence and my abilities. So when I actually made that team, I was so stoked. But like deep down, I knew I was making that team with how much work I was putting into it. But obviously, you know, hearing your coach say like you're gonna be the top 12 going to the Paralympics is still like, you know, like mind blowing. And then as soon as they really say that, you know, all gas on the you're pretty much sending it, right? You're like fully into your training, you're dedicated, you're at 100% there in your training. And so then when you're at the Paralympics, that was huge. That was again Rio 2016, one of my favorite Paralympics. Like I had so much fun. I got to experience all these new things. And again, I was still one of the younger ones on the team, so all the veterans were like taking me in, and just to see that world stage and how great, you know, Rio and Brazil held that Paralympics, it just sets that like notch a little bit higher for you and higher for your team. And yeah, it was so cool. It was the first time I got to play basketball in front of like 14,000 fans, and they were chanting Canada when we came on. Like, what a surreal experience. Like, it just makes you so proud to be there and, you know, be an athlete that gets to represent and experience it.
Of course, going to Rio, what was that feeling like the first time you got to step onto that court at the Paralympics?
As much as my coaches and staff at the time wouldn't want to hear this, I was nervous. I felt like I got on there and I was like, this is intense. I was so nervous. The whole, like, my heart rate was probably through the roof and I wasn't even warming up yet. But once, like, you know, tip off starts and you're like, okay, the game's still the game, like nothing's changed. You're just kind of at a higher level. Everything kind of settled down, and, you know, I knew what my job was and stuff. But that first initial getting on court, I was freaking out. I was so nervous. I probably missed my first like 7 shots in warm up, but once you get the groove of things and you know you're there for a reason, it kind of just like, you know, your basketballness just like takes over.
Of course, what was that feeling like the first time you got to put on that jersey and have the Paralympic rings on it?
Oh man, it's kind of like I'm here. I am that lucky to be here and experience this. It's kind of one of those feelings. But at the same time, when you put it on, you almost feel like badass. Like, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm about to show the world who Canada is. So, you kind of get a like mix of both worlds. And once you do like get the opportunity to get on court and really show your skills, it's like you're coming out guns blazing, right? So it's still a really cool feeling to represent your country and stuff, but definitely as a, younger kid at the time, it was like 20,000 times more amplified.
Of course, while at Rio, what were some of your biggest accomplishments?
Ooh, I think that was like my true first time getting to like show the world who I was as an individual, and especially because we had the same team now for a couple years and I was one of the only ones that was like a new addition. And so for me, it was just like getting to show the world, like, Canada has multiple different players coming up. And other than that, like the experiences off court were huge to me, just seeing like other countries. And, Canada's really fortunate in a lot of ways. And it was crazy. It was, you're in a village with all these athletes and all different types of athletes and different types of sports. So I was like a little chatterbox. I was asking everyone what sport they played, what their disability was, how, like, I was asking everyone. I made probably friends with like 1,000 athletes, it felt like. So yeah, off court, I had fun because again, I was young. I wasn't like truly in that like starting five yet or of a serious player. So I was just really enjoying my experience outside the game. But obviously on court, basketball is basketball. You're gonna ball out as much as you can. But seeing how we could come back from obviously a really not so fun quarterfinal loss and being able to bounce back and win those last few games to still place fifth, like that was really cool to see because I've never seen Canada have that like true let's get out of this and let's, finish on top, because we were on top in 2014. So that was really, really cool to see, and just how the team like rallies around each other during those times, because you're with each other for almost 2 months straight. Like you don't really get to see friends or family. You're just with your teammates. So you have to learn how to become a family and like live with each other. And so that was really cool to just like experience for the first time as well.
After the 2016 Paralympics in Rio, what was that training like preparing for your next Paralympics?
So a lot of the main athletes retired after 2016. So I knew it was my time to like actually step it up. And I had like my nose on the grindstone. I knew I wanted to be one of the best 4.5s in the game. And so I totally flipped a switch in my mind, being one of those crazy high performance athletes. And I stuck to it. I stuck to my grind. I stuck to being one of the best 4.5s in the world. And I really got to, dive deep into being one of the main players. And it was so, looking back at it now, I'm like, I was crazy. I don't know how I didn't burn myself out, but it's literally have made me like a better athlete for it. And yeah, so I've definitely, since 2016, I really kind of smashed that door down and was like, I am Arinn Young and I'm ready to play you. Like, so yeah, it was a big switch for me, and I really kind of matured and like grown into my game because of, Rio.
Of course, how has your experience getting to play with the club team in Germany helped you into making that second Paralympics in Tokyo?
Ooh, that's a really tough question because so the pro league in Europe, it's male dominated. There's not a lot of women in that pro league. And so when a female athlete does step up to that level, you're again all guns blazing. Like you got to prove yourself. You got to prove that you are just as strong, just as fast, just as good as a basketball player. So when I made that transition into Europe, I was like, let's break some of these female barriers. Like I was ready to go. And I dedicated my last 3 years there. I've just like dedicated to breaking barriers there. And I've I love it. I love playing in the men's league. I love being one of the only females in the men's league, and I love beating on the boys a little bit. Like I kind of thrive in that. I just love kind of proving that I'm as good as you or even better. And yeah, that's definitely helped my game a ton. Obviously, you're training against guys that are, sitting in their chair and they're 3 feet taller than you and probably have over 100 pounds on you as well. And you're just kind of like, all right, you're rolling up your sleeves and you're getting to work. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And my biggest thing is kind of trying to get more women there because it's a little bit intimidating, obviously, when it's male dominated league over there. But I'm like, come on, like our women are pretty good. Let's get us over there.
Of course, what was that feeling like getting to go to Tokyo and making your second Paralympics?
It was a lot different, mostly because my basketball game matured a little bit on and off court. I wasn't the youngest anymore. We had pretty much a whole new team going into Tokyo versus Rio. So yeah, and I was one of the only ones. There's only not even a handful of us that have been to one Paralympics or more before. So I felt like I was more of a veteran at the experience. And obviously, COVID kind of threw a wrench in that. So obviously, Tokyo Paralympics was a bit different, not having like fans and lots of COVID restrictions while we were there. But it was a lot of fun still playing at that Paralympics. And, Japan was an incredibly good host. Like the accommodations, everything was just top notch, as you expect from the Japanese. But it was awesome. The whole Paralympics there was really, really good. It was definitely a bit more of a, it wasn't like a physical challenge because my body was like fully there for it, but it was more like the mental side that was a little bit tougher, right? Because you don't get friends and family there and you're just there with the athletes. And we've been together now for 3 months without seeing family and friends. And it was definitely a more of a grind, but I wouldn't change that experience.
So while at Tokyo, what were some of your biggest accomplishments?
Ooh, I mean, the one of the biggest ones was playing our first game in a year and a half together was at Tokyo. Like we never legitimately had a game. Like we played against, our junior boys but we never had an official game that whole year and a half leading up to Tokyo because of COVID. So our first game was like our legitimate first game in a long time together. And to be able to go out there and just roast the other team. Like we played so well and we were so disciplined and we were just so amped up on wanting to play a game that I think that kind of helped us like play really well. And so that was like a big achievement because, you can either go into it winning or you're going into it and it was just terrible. So that was really cool how, we can come play basketball our first game in a year and a half and still be really successful and dominant. And then, like we didn't really perform well in our quarterfinals and some of our games, which really, really sucks. But again, just being able to come out of that tournament on a little bit of a high note, winning our last 2 games and again placing fifth, it was still an accomplishment. Obviously, it's not like what we wanted as a team, but kind of got to take what you can get sometimes and just learn from those experiences.
How was that feeling like for you to get to put on that Team Canada jersey with the Paralympic rings on them and your name on the back of it?
It's always surreal. Like I love putting on our fresh new jerseys for a major tournament. It just makes you feel really good. And like, yeah, it just makes you feel really good. And just being able to put that jersey on and then go play for something for you, but your team, but you're playing a little bit for things that are bigger than just you and your team. It just makes you feel really, really good. And it's a very like humbling experience.
Of course, what is that experience like getting to play not just for the name on the back of your jersey, so your family, but for Canada in general?
It's so hard to put that truly into words. I am I'm a really kind of big spokesperson for playing something more than just myself. And yeah, I'll go out on court and I feel like I'm dedicating every game to someone different, or, playing a little bit for someone different. And it's really hard to explain, but I just love being able to represent my country and represent things that are bigger than me, and like break barriers. And it's so hard to explain. I wish I could.
Of course, what is that feeling like having Paralympian behind your last name and adding PLY?
It's really cool. I think it's gonna more like settle in a bit more when I still am, maturing my game, because I am only 26. I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit older, but I'm just really proud to have been to 2 Paralympics and have the PLY kind of behind my name, because it just shows like the hard work that I've put in to become something with that. And it's humbling. Like, it's really, really cool to have that, but at the same time, it's like not fully who I am. Like, I am a Paralympian and I have dedicated my entire life to wheelchair basketball, but at the same time, I'm a farm kid and I'm from Alberta, and I like, cows and horses and stuff like that.
Of course, what is that experience like getting to meet your fans and having them ask for your autographs and photos with you?
Ooh, the first autographs that I actually legitimately signed were in 2014, and I was a little bit taken back that they wanted my autograph, because at the time I was maybe getting like 2 minutes, like nothing serious. And so when the kids were coming up to me and asking for my autograph, I was so pumped. I was like, me? Like, I'm not even a big name yet. Like, it's me. And so I really made sure after that, if I do have that little fan base, that they know that I'm watching them. I want to be a bit present for them too. Like, I just don't want to, play my basketball game, sign and leave. Like, I'm taking pictures, I'm asking like how they are, what they're doing for work, like why they're here. Like, I want to make sure that they know that I appreciate their love of the game. And yeah, it's really, really cool. I think that I wouldn't say I have the biggest fan base, because I also feel like I am a very focused athlete. So I tend to not really get too hyped with that kind of stuff. But I really make sure that, I spread the love when I do have it as well. And yeah, it's really cool. And I really enjoy it. And I make sure that like I take pictures with everyone that I can that is following my career, there to support me. But I think it's cool. You have like a little extra extended family with it.
What was that feeling like for you to get to put on that Canada ring and have the Paralympic symbols on it?
The funny thing is I didn't actually get to put on my ring until like 4 months later, because I was still in school, and they shipped it home for me and I was already in Alabama. So the funny thing is my parents tried it on first and they loved it. But when I finally got to try it on, it was kind of like surreal. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is for me, and like this is like kind of proof that I was there even more. And it's really cool. Like, I don't wear, any of those types of rings. Like, I'm not too flashy with like accomplishments that I've had, but I have kept them safe, and I'll show them once in a while when people ask. And it's something I'm really, really proud of. So it's very sentimental to me. So I don't really like to like, ooh, this is my Paralympic ring or this is my national championship ring. I'm just like, yeah, I've done that. If you want to see it, you can see it. But I like making sure they're, nice and tidy.
Of course, what is that like, obviously getting to play with some of your teammates like Tara?
Oh man, I love Tara. Her and I have a great relationship on and off the court, and we seem to just like have a great I don't know, vibe when we're playing together. So yeah, I love Tara. Her and I get along so much. And we have a really good relationship where we can have those hard conversations. If like I messed up on court or she messed up on court, we can have those conversations. And Yeah, she's awesome, and she brings so much experience to the game. And yeah, I have nothing but love for her. She is one of my favorite athletes to play with.
Of course, still being so young in the Paralympic world, what is that like? Obviously, having people like Tara, Megan, and even others that are veterans help you learn about wheelchair basketball.
So Tara is definitely a veteran in wheelchair basketball, but just sports in general. If you kind of look at her history and all the sports and places she's been to, like she is a badass athlete. Um, I really kind of like will, I guess, see guidance more in like terms of like, like your mental game versus like our physical game, because Tara is a different classification than me and she has a different role on the team than I do. So we can't really, you know, ask too much advice to each other on court about like our own games. But I've definitely, we've talked so much about basketball and just so much about life. And, she's definitely one of our better players when it comes to our mental game. And so, yeah, I will kind of turn to her when I'm getting frantic, and she's really good at like, calming people down. She's kind of like the glue to the whole team. And Megan, she's not, I didn't definitely wouldn't think she's a veteran yet. She's very, very new to the team, but she brings like she reminds me a lot about, when I was younger. And so I really try to take her under my wing, because when I was young, all the veterans took me under her wing. So it's definitely interesting to see me kind of get that role as well now, because I never really truly had a role like that just yet. But with her, I really want to take her under my wing.
Of course, what is that experience like getting to play with some of your former teammates from Alabama, like Bailey Moody?
Oh, 1 second. My brother's dog just came running down. Okay, sorry.
What is that experience like getting to play with some of your former teammates, like Bailey Moody from Team USA?
It's really cool getting to play against my former teammates. I didn't truly get to play with Bailey too much on the team because I was coming in when she was just or no, I was coming out when she was just leaving. But yeah, it's really cool. I really, really love playing against former teammates because you kind of get that, like you can get a little chippy without, anyone's feelings kind of getting hurt. And they just kind of bring a little bit more competitiveness to the game because it's like you kind of want to beat your former teammate, like obviously. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I really try to keep like my eye open for how my former teammates are doing and like where they're competing and how they're playing. And I try to like not keep tabs, but I really like kind of watching my former teammates succeed.
What is that like, obviously getting to live out your Paralympic dreams, not just once, but twice?
It was wild to me that I've been to 2 Paralympics and 3 World Championships. Like it seems like a lot of years. But yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I put in a lot of work to kind of be in the situation I am in. And so it's just really rewarding. And, I'm kind of trying to push for that third Paralympics as well a little bit here. So I feel like I have a lot of games under my belt, and I feel a little bit old in the wheelchair basketball world now, but that's okay.
Of course, what are some of your future plans in the sport of wheelchair basketball?
That is an incredibly tough question to ask because I actually don't know. I would say like right now, we just finished our world championships in Dubai as of like a week ago. And I'm obviously going to be pushing for the Pan Am Games hosted in Chile, Santiago, and we'll be there in November, and then the push to Paris. So we'll kind of see how that goes. I've been in the wheelchair basketball world for, like I said, almost 10 years, and I'm really looking forward to obviously still playing because I am still young, but I am also kind of starting to, explore the coaching side of wheelchair basketball. I've done a few of the courses for it in Canada, and definitely I want to give back to the sport that's given me so much and me so many opportunities. So that's kind of the feeler I'm putting out right now.
Of course, what is that feeling going to feel like, obviously, to go play in Paris and maybe LA for the Paralympics?
Ooh, that seems really fun. um, I mean, I'm pretty mature in my game physically and mentally, so I'm very easy. It's easy for me to fall into a really hard training environment and like love it. So I don't think the preparation for me is going to be too hard because, like I said, I love training and I love basketball and I love like pushing my body and mind further and further. So I really don't think it's going to be too hard for me to, have my sights set on definitely Paris. I mean, we'll see about LA. That seems like a long ways away, but yeah.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to play wheelchair basketball in college on the collegiate level?
For me, it's just to have fun. Like, don't put too much pressure on yourself and don't expect, yourself to be able to perform every single day 100% because that's just like not human. Yeah, just to have fun and enjoy what you're doing because if you lose that enjoyment, like you kind of start to second guess yourself of why you're there, but just enjoy it, have fun, ride that wave as long as you can.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to represent a national team, whether it's Team Canada or Team USA?
Good luck. It is hard. I will not sugarcoat how hard it is to make a national team and stay on a national team. It is really hard. You dedicate a lot of your life to it and you miss out on a lot of, things outside of sport, but it is so rewarding and one of the best things to do because you get to travel the world, meet new friends, and play the sport that you love so much. And so just, yeah, nose to the grindstone and hopefully you come out on top, but remember you're not a robot and yeah, just enjoy. It's all you can really do.
What advice would you give those first time Paralympians and even Olympians looking to compete?
Ooh. Definitely take a breath. Breathe. That's the best thing I could give you because, when you're younger and you're new to that high international level, you get really amped up a lot of the time and it can be really overwhelming, but just kind of trusting yourself and the work that you've put in, yeah, just take a breath and you'll be good because basketball is basketball.
Of course, what advice would you give those people that are looking to go multiple times like you have?
Oh, I hope that you have good doctors and good shoulders. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Honestly, I feel like when you've done this for so long, there's not a lot of things that you can really change about your game. It's in small increments. So it's just kind of continuing to find that love of sport because when you've been in it so long, you kind of get sidetracked from that. So refinding the love in the game and re-enjoying who you are in the game, that's all you can really ask for is just be who you are while you play.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
Oh my goodness. My Instagram is dajuice6 because that is my nickname in wheelchair basketball is Juice. And on Twitter as well, I'm pretty sure it's dajuice6 as well. So it's not too hard to find me. All my, my profile, I guess, pictures are me playing wheelchair basketball. So yeah, it'd be pretty easy.
Thank you again, Arinn Young, for your interview and best luck in your future as a Canada Paralympian wheelchair basketball athlete.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Arinn Young, for your interview and best luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.